I'm going to call the meeting to order. Any changes, adds, or removals to the agenda? Okay. First order of business is to approve the minutes from April 1st. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Use your pen, right? Thank you. We have comments on here next. Is that for the meeting minutes, Angela, or?
That's it. Somebody we added that, if anybody has
Okay.
Anybody want to discuss anything?
What, of the minutes from last meeting?
No, anything at all.
Oh,
It's a new forum. A new set,
Oh.
a new
Citizens
interlude.
comment.
I just had a question.
Citizen.
We
Rant
don't
and
know
rave.
the school budget- We don't know what the school budget vote is yet, do we? Haven't heard.
I don't.
Okay, I was just ask Angela. I haven't heard anything or seen anything. Because they have a certain timeline also. So I was wondering, I think it's similar to what it's a revote. I think it's very similar.
They'll have to warn it, right?
They what?
You'll have to warn it.
Well, they took public input that was going around for a while.
Yeah, they got like 1,200 and some inputs. I don't know what the inputs were.
You offered some input, I saw that one. That was some fiery input.
Anyway.
I did, I put some in as well. The official channel.
I'll go in and fix it. Give me money, I'll go in and tell them how to
They
fix
can't
it.
fix it, and they can't raise it, who knows?
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, then, well, we should check in with Bob.
What about Bob? Bob, you got anything you want to discuss?
Hello, Bob.
Okay.
Bob, we have a new item on our agenda that we're at, and it's just called citizens' comments. So do you have anything you need to comment
I have a
about?
lot of
Maybe I shouldn't have asked.
Where's my good friend Bruce? Oh, good friend Bruce, my comment today is you're parked in front of the fire plug. No parking.
Oh,
Why not right here in case?
No, it doesn't make a difference. That's the fire plug.
The clerk to write a ticket?
thank you, Bob.
Yes, thanks, Bob.
See, I worked-
So we have then review and approval of increased protection to deposit accounts with M&T Bank. Elaine, is that you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we definitely are interested in the M&T Enterprise cash service for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason is that full coverage insurance for our deposits, up to 175 million, which we will never see. So that's a good reason to do it. We'll be getting about 3.5% interest as opposed to 2.75, I believe. But we haven't decided the level of protection because it's not cheap. So we're still discussing that and thinking about it.
Okay. Okay. So, did they give you, do we have, the difference in the interest that we think will accrue? Of course, that depends on the balance, right?
It depends on the balance.
Okay.
I'm surprised always at the amount of interest that we've accrued. Like this month, it was just under $4,000. we've had up to $8,000 interest before the flood in a month, so it's significant.
What's our typical balance that we get out of that?
Lately, it's below 2 million. And that's a little tight because we have to pay out $101.5 million next month for 2 bills.
What about other institutions? Does anybody else offer favorable, more favorable?
They're not more favorable unless you're a depositor with them. Yeah. So we're still in the office discussing the level of fraud prevention that we are comfortable with.
All right, well, sounds good. So nothing to do tonight for us?
No.
Okay. That brings us on to review and possibly approve the road name changes.
Those are from now, right?
Yep. Some of them. Yeah, all of them. So I'll read this. And this is prepared by Mike and the listers, or is it just Mike?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Planning Commission, okay. Select Board should consider the recommendations and subsequently take official action to add or change road name or right-of-way names. The following town highways, private roads, driveways that have 2 or more structures, the Planning Commission has recommended naming the following: Gilmore Road, Class 4 road from Kingdom Road to Dix Hill. Caroline Road, that's a private road off Great Roaring Brook Road, Schulte 4-lot subdivision. Duck Pond Road is a private road off 100 at the Michael Gravel Pit subdivision of the 5 lots. Plymouth Estates Road, the private road off Route 100A, Sweetster subdivision, 5 lots. Hennessy Way is a private road off Lions Hill Road, 3 lots, 3 camps at Moore's Pond. Any discussion?
And this is only naming the roads and installing a sign at the end of the road. This is not changing the classifications or any upgrades. It's not converting anything from a class 4 to a class 3. It's simply putting a road name so we can have 911.
You're in compliance with it that way, yeah. Any discussion? I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Go ahead and sign.
Written, if you need to sign. You need to sign that, it's your file.
And there'll be some, just a warning, there will be some more in probably 2 months. We'll go about the same way, have a hearing, and there's a few roads that, some are on our town map, some aren't.
Thanks for taking that on, Mike. A lot of work involved, I know. Next is review and hopefully approve the local emergency plan, which we know is a good thing to have in place. You all have a copy of that?
Yeah. This is up now under Dave, it's Dave's authority, right? And
Yep.
did you prepare this or Al did?
don't really see anything that stands out to me.
Does this need to be reviewed by the state?
Uh,
And then they come back with comments or whatever? They approve it?
Al put most of this through, didn't he?
Oh, I think so, and Dave was able to just reuse most of the boilerplate. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
I'll wait to sign it till Keith, you say you're good.
I am in principle. I'm just looking at the
Okay.
last couple of pages that I didn't see. Okay, so we are gonna go with Plymouth Press then, as the official word of record. Yeah,
What's that?
Plymouth Press will be the publication of record, quote unquote.
I think so. We could switch it if you wanted to the Vermont Journal or. And Dave said something about using VT alerts.
I mean, I'm not opposed to the Plymouth Press, I'm just asking.
Okay.
To qualify.
That's just posting alerts when something's going on.
Something significant, yeah.
And you have more than one, like?
That mean that's these alerts like hours before like the flood, like,
It's like, it can't be on Facebook, you know, that's just the,
So I got something on my weather thing the other day that Plymouth might have flooding, blah, 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 and that just comes up.
the Plymouth Press would be the authority, I mean, the final word would be
Yeah,
there.
right.
And if it said something different on Facebook, you'd still refer back to the Plymouth Press. But, yeah. Are you signing that one there?
Yeah, there's only two spots, Keith. I guess because Jay and I are on the committee or something. There's no, they only need two signatures?
That's all he.
That's all they need? Okay. All right. There we go.
Good. Next is to review the dog ordinance enforcement. And this comes up as we've had a complaint in town. We've not substantiated it yet, or I should say it hasn't been investigated yet, but it's been a recurring complaint of a dog owner that has not properly restrained its dogs, their dogs. And we currently do not have a sworn-in constable. Is that correct, Angela?
she is now, she could come in.
Oh, she did? Okay. So that was a large part of the question, because our animal control officer in this ordinance is the constable. So I thought one of us might have to take that on. That's all I wanted to raise with it.
Just out of curiosity, what's the authorities of, I mean, what can that person do, the constable?
So the first part, right, is investigate it, right, find out what's happening. And according to the ordinance, if it's found, you know, they're found in violation, you know, vicious dog thing is a problem, but there are impoundment and penalties available if the owner does not comply. Obviously, the goal is to get the owner to comply and have control of their dog, right? That was the whole reason this was passed.
What do they mean by not properly restrained?
So a dog, I think according to statute is, you know, we don't have a leash law in Vermont, but your dog has to remain under your control at all times, so it shouldn't be running loose. It can run loose as long as it obeys your commands. Oh, as long as it obeys your commands. Well, yeah, and if it leaves your property and harasses somebody else on either public property, then it's a violation of the ordinance.
Well, according to the ordinance, the constable can show up and confine the dog.
Yeah.
If it's a problem dog, you just take it and then issue notice, and if someone doesn't come to claim it, then it gets impounded and destroyed.
That's the problem I have with that ordinance. Because that gives pretty much godlike powers to somebody to kill a dog if they're just wandering. I mean, how do we go about changing this ordinance to rein back those type of powers? Because why wouldn't they just take it to a shelter?
I think that's what had happened, but the ordinance doesn't reflect that.
No, that's,
Can I add to that, Malia, if you recall when you read the constable outline a month ago, that constable outline said it could be put down to.
and that comment really disturbed me with that
And
person.
we can't change what the outline is for the constable, that mirrors what it says.
Unless we change the ordinance.
But
We
that's-
can't change the state statute on constables,
Right,
so.
state statute.
So the state statute specifically
Right, that
states
question on last, yeah, it's the state
that
statute.
they can take it and destroy the dog.
But
Yeah.
Stephanie's our new person, she said she would try to resolve the issue, that's the main goal, to try and resolve the issue, and that would be pretty much, I think, our last resort. If there's some dog wandering around, I'm assuming like every once in a while something, the press someone's lost a dog, you know, people find them, and if it's,
That's it. I mean, the ordinance says
Yeah.
5 days, so you got, I mean, if the
Yeah.
dog was taken, if the constable went and grabbed the dog
Yeah.
and confined it for, the owner would have 5 days to claim it. If not, then it
And
would
the dog's not shit.
yeah,
I mean, I deal with this in rescue all the time. Some dogs get lost for months, and they end up in a shelter, and the owner just find them. 5 days is not a lot of time.
it's not our mistake.
Probably plenty in the town like Plymouth.
But if it's an out-of-town person that lost their dog, they don't know that Plymouth has that capability to save a dog. Whereas if you took it to a shelter, then that's the first place somebody goes.
Right.
Not impounding. Where's this constable gonna impound these dogs? Where's the place?
We've never had to enforce this ordinance very far as I know. I don't think,
So, okay, my question is.
probably be out in the fire department.
And Lucy Mack is probably the closest shelter, and there's one in Springfield, I think, Rutland has one also. There's 3 shelters. Lucy
But
Mack's one of the
we
closest.
could redefine our ordinance, just say the dog will be transferred to a shelter.
But we have to still follow statutes, right?
we could, I mean, we could.
I could strongly recommend that as an animal lover. That you want to give the chance. You very rarely find a dog that's vicious.
Could we change language in this ordinance without a vote and all that?
I don't think so.
I think we can amend it, you know.
We look it up.
I don't know about vote.
What about
I don't
cats?
know. I just don't know, Keith.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we can bring it up for consideration, changing it. I mean, to
Thank you.
say shelter, I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, I think the more a big deal is the ongoing issues that we have.
I'll have you.
Dog, I mean, there's some problem dogs around,
At the store to do it if I have to.
so the ordinance gives us teeth to do something about it now, right?
It does. I don't think we can amend this ordinance though without a public vote, a hearing and a vote.
I think you're right, Keith.
Right, yeah, almost anything has to.
It's more clarification, though, right? But anyways, it's up to you guys.
It's within the realm of possibility if there's will to do it, I guess.
I mean, unless there's a danger to the public, I'd just soon see this, have a civil penalty, right?
Which is fine. That's reasonable.
But if it's a Cujo situation, maybe that's a little bit, it's so unlikely, but,
We don't have any ordinance that pertain to people like that, though, do we?
Robert Gould.
That's a shame.
Can I just ask a question?
yeah.
This ordinance makes me think of like the short-term rental that we went through. Somebody had to get a petition, submit something for it. And I make an assumption it will have to be the same way.
I think so, or I think we can warn a public meeting ourselves without going through the petition. The petition makes it easy, but,
Okay, right.
that means we have to present modified language and make sure it complies legally in advance. So I think we have another warning right here, but it's not gonna jibe with that one. So we wouldn't get it done in time.
Is it within the constable's jurisdiction to make their own call, of, you know what, I'm gonna bring this animal to a shelter? Is that within your jurisdiction, as far as the
Yeah,
state
that's
goes?
what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, when she stated, kind of almost stated that fact, and I thought animals came up when she was talking to her.
So that person could actually just,
And
with their
involves
own
like one.
Yeah, they-
judgment, take the
Yeah.
animal that hasn't been claimed in 5 days and bring it to a shelter.
Right,
And
that's my,
Involves really the modification or of one sentence. If you were gonna do something about it, it should, you know, the sentence in question would be, if the dog is not claimed, the dog shall be disposed of in a humane manner. So it could just read, if the dog is not claimed, the dog shall be, brought to a shelter.
yeah. That's how you put that.
Also the size of the store.
Now, when you bring a dog to the shelter, there's a fee involved, right? And is there a daily fee that they charge? Or, I don't know how that works.
Not if it's a surrender.
Okay?
So if you, and I'm not sure how the Russian place does it, but typically in Boston, if no one brings it to bless you.
thank you.
The next sentence reads, the owner shall be liable for all costs incurred by the town of Plymouth or said disposal, so you can just change the ad for submission to shelter. It's the same thing.
And typically they, if you do a surrender, they don't charge for that surrender. Because it happens all, sadly, it happens all the time. Because if they did that, then they would, people would probably go and kill the dogs or cats.
Hmm,
So,
okay.
Does the dog ordinance cover anything other than canines? Does it cover farm animals?
It says dog and animal control. So I think, yeah, if you had somebody's bull or something was on the loose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened down in Killington not too long ago.
Some horses got loose on Route 7 one day.
It's some question. But what about wild turkeys? Doesn't cover to them, does it?
They're wild.
I'm just throwing out, it's
It's
a
like
animal
here.
ordinance. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I love seeing them, so I'm like, I don't want anybody touching them.
Careful in ice and ready room, because there are little deer over the fence.
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna table this for now? Do a little research?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
all right. Next on our list was, just start the discussion about grader replacement.
Yeah, I can address that.
Okay.
We have an equipment reserve fund that we budget $130,000 a year for, and we've been doing that for as long as I can remember. And that allows us to pay for equipment when we need it. The grader that we have right now is 35 years old. It is used for grading roads, but it's also used in the winter for pushing back snowbanks with the wind plow, make room for the next storm. So it's used year round, quite regularly. It's up for replacement on our capital budget for replacement in a couple of years from now. And the goal of the highway department is to replace it within 4 or 5 years. Now, what do we replace it with? Well, let me start off by saying, first of all, we've been maintaining it and fixing things as they break and they need repair on a regular basis, and we planned on continuing to do that. For example, last week, the alternator went on the grader. So we call up the dealer and they come down and they put a new alternator on it, but oh, while we're here, you see this seal's leaking over here and this valve sticking over here, and before you know it, there's a whole laundry list of other things that need to be done, just fine. So they go back and they're gathering up the parts and they're gonna reschedule another visit. So that's gonna happen every now and then, but that's not a huge deal, it's just part of maintenance. If we were to purchase a new one 4 or 5 years from now, it'd probably be in the $500,000 range. So what are the options? We could try and see if we could find a used one. I think that's going to be really challenging to find a good used grader with low hours that's going to last you 35 years. You might get lucky and maybe you can find one that lasts 10 or 15 years, but you're going to pay maybe half the price. Or you could try and rebuild the grader we have, which, depending on how detailed and complicated it gets, if you get into engine rebuilding or transmission rebuilding, I mean, you're going to have to go through and replace all the bushings and all the moving parts and things like that. So you could get into $100,000 to $150,000 pretty easily if you want to go through and really rebuild that piece of equipment. And do you want to put $150,000 in a 35-year-old machine? That's the question. So there are your options. Right now, with the equipment reserve fund, we have the first expenditure is going to be for the new truck we bought. We haven't paid for the plow and the dump bed yet, and that's coming up in about 2 months. That's about $90,000 we owe on that. Then the next piece that I think is going to really dictate a replacement is going to be the 550, because that's creating a lot of maintenance problems for us. And by the time you go through and fit that up the way we need it, it'd probably be close to $100,000. But we still think with our reserve fund, if we continue to fund it as we have, we'd be in a position to purchase a grader in 4 to 5 years. That's my spiel on the grader.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. What about leasing?
Leasing is an option.
Is that, I know I would never lease a car because it's not a financially reasonable solution, but for a piece of equipment that is, I mean, usually when you lease something, maintenance would be included with it. And then you trade it in something down the line.
Yeah, that's an option. Another option that Larry and I just talked about last week was if we got into a position where, say, we had $400,000 cash. Lots of times we could make a deal with John Deere or one of the dealers and saying, we've got 4 and we want to pay you $50,000 a year for the next 2 years to pay it off. We can make arrangements like that too. There's all kinds of options. Right? Leasing is an option. Absolutely. When the time comes, we'll look into that.
We would have the cash in 2029 to do it if we said, based on not raising the amount we're putting into the equipment fund and kept it at $130,000 a year like we've been doing, we'd be okay. So no big surprise, no borrowing money.
How much are we spending a year on maintenance right now?
I don't know, Rick.
That's a good question by the breakdown per.
Or how much
Yeah.
is it? We do in 2030. Oh, you just said almost 90, right? For this last one, you're gonna have to spend to fix it?
That was for the new truck.
Yeah, that was for the truck. We just took possession of the new truck.
What, last 4 to 5 years? That's what it's like an old car.
Yeah.
That's assuming no gremlins either, nothing. Nobody wrecks any trucks or
Yeah.
nothing breaks.
Yeah.
How
That's
many
absolutely right.
How many hours it's got on it?
13,000,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah. Now, the other issue that plays into this is Larry is keeping his eye on retirement in 4 to 5 years. And we have a young crew, not as experienced as someone like Larry, with maintenance issues and troubleshooting problems with equipment. I mean, they're good and they're coming along, but they just don't have that kind of experience. And it would be beneficial to not have a lot of older equipment around when he retires and we have a young crew coming up through the ranks that just don't have the experience that he has. So that's just one other factor into it.
So I feel like I'm missing something here. What's motivating this conversation?
I don't know.
We've been so we talked about capital planning, right? And, you know, if there's like 4 or 5 years left on this grader, we just don't want to get to 2028 and start talking about a 2029 purchase. So it's kind of like to make sure we're on track, we're putting money away.
So
We're-
you're just making sure everything's online for the plan?
Yeah, I guess it's just a review
Okay.
of where we're at and what the plan is.
Yeah.
Do you have to dip into that fund for repairs or replacements, like when that truck got
Yes,
completely
Yep.
shot?
yes, we do. Correct.
So you can't predict 100%, you're gonna have the money available to you at any given.
No
time.
way. The crystal ball is cloudy. Yeah, no, you can't predict. All you can do is plan the best you can with the information you have in front of you. And if the information changes, well, the plan changes.
So it raises the question as we're watching prices for everything go up, and especially on some of this heavy equipment and so forth. Is our budget for the next 4 years adequate to meet rising expenses that we pay, plus whatever the new cost might be at the time we're ready to buy?
So we probably need to go through this list, double check some prices, right? We made our best estimates 2 years ago on a lot of this stuff, so maybe we need to revise that.
Yeah.
And Bob, did you have a?
Yeah, I'd just like to, can we pull somebody from outside the town, or do you have to be a town resident to be a roadman?
Good question. I don't know.
Because I'm sure there's guys down country that have already retired that are still young age and stuff, and looking for something like this in their retirement.
Yeah.
That are more than well qualified, outside of like our general area, like from Connecticut or Massachusetts or something.
Yeah.
But, a lot of, like the union guys, you get like so many years in, and they're still in their 50s.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
But
I don't know the
nothing
answer to your
says-
question though, Bob. That's a good question.
No, yeah, so road foreman, you don't have to be a resident, road commissioner, you do. Like,
Okay.
So Rick's road commissioner, Larry's road foreman, you don't have to be a resident.
You don't have to.
Okay.
It's an
You
employee.
could pull somebody from outside the town to say, take Larry's place, if you had to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just thinking in terms of the fact that equipment costs do rise every year, the cost of new equipment does. Wouldn't it make sense to look into leasing a new piece of equipment now rather than later? At least to know how it would work. I mean, I know a fellow that has a brand new machine he just got last year, a big excavator, and it's the lease for 5 years. Take it away, bring me another one. And the payments are quite reasonable.
And we could look into a right lease.
I think we should look into that, Bruce. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll start that ball rolling. Sure. Why not?
At least, I look at lease as a short-term solution to a long-term problem. People get into the car lease because they need a car, and they can't afford a new car. So I don't think the town is really in that position. We're looking long-term. My only question is, I have no problem with, you need equipment, you need a new building, whatever, but to kind of bring in another subject, like with the fire truck, that was $500,000. When is that going to be paid off? Because there was a whole schedule of things. Was it a 5-year?
Over 4 years.
So I think the townspeople can look at, you know what, when the fire truck gets paid off, whatever our tax increase, that's gonna stay, and that difference is gonna be our new excavator. Maybe think of it that way. $500,000 here, $500,000 there, but at least that $500,000, that's off the table, and we continue, we're gonna see an increase in our taxes, but at least it's not gonna be another increase in our taxes, because we wanna get a lease that's never gonna go away. You start leasing, it's never going away.
But also leasing might decrease people's taxes too.
Well, that's short, but it's a short term, again, if you lease something for 5 years, the end of 5 years, let's say you had to put, I don't know, what do they ask for, $50,000, 10% down on a lease for a $500,000 piece? You have to put that capital out. And then, after 5 years, guess what? Capital again.
Again,
And it just,
it's significantly less on purchasing a new vehicle and dealing with all the maintenance on it.
I still think it's worthwhile looking at.
it's worth looking into.
The numbers
Yeah,
are.
I don't think,
This type of stuff.
Yeah,
I agree about
a
cars.
decision warrants looking at all angles, you
Yeah.
gotta look at it.
All the information we can gather is good for planning, so that's all a good point. So, yeah, we should definitely look into that. Yeah.
A lot of equipment costs have been going up because of COVID. Don't forget the supply chain's starting to pull right now.
Oh,
Getting better, so.
the benefit of a lease right now is that a lot of equipment is the backlash of the COVID drama. There's a lot of equipment around right now that they can't move, so they'd be more than willing to lease it at, favorable rate.
That's where you get into negotiations with leasing. Purchasing outright's a little more difficult. But sometimes you can strike a good bargain with leasing.
Well, if we end up in another recession, I mean, that could happen too. Boy, that would be a time to pounce on something.
I'm happy to help bargain with you if you want. I'm pretty good at it.
Okay, so that takes care of the grader for now, I guess.
And I did see a used one for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about the same as ours for $50,000. So if we minimum bid is $50,000. Yep.
Yeah, there's all sorts of equipment auctions and everything you can go, I mean,
It
it's a
was-
big one in Pennsylvania.
How often do you use the grader?
How often do we use it?
Well, that was just used on my own, right? They do, yeah.
Daily
Great.
or weekly?
Not daily, but a couple times a week.
Couple times a week.
Yeah,
Potholes are done.
yeah. As soon as the road's dry, you're gonna see it full-time out there. But the road's gotta be dry.
Yeah.
But we've started some roads that have dried out, but
Mhm.
we've done half a road and had to stop because the other half is wet. And it's
Lions Hill is like that.
Yeah, Lions Hill is a good example. We graded the hill part, but once we got to the flat on top, it was wet the other day. And we turned around and we're just gonna make a mess.
Oh, he did. I told Tyler to get great job anyway.
Yeah, he's coming into it.
Town of Bakersfield, Vermont, 1990 Deere 672 B grader. 10 to 12,000 hours, they're not exactly sure. But $45,000 minimum bid, sealed bid, so,
That's the same as what we got,
yeah.
you know?
So
They're
maybe
in the same boat.
Yeah.
Except we know what problems ours have, we don't know what problems ours have.
Bought it at the same time.
So you know what it's worth.
Yeah, well, whatever. Hard times are around everywhere, we should keep some powder dry, there's no reason to spend all our money,
Yeah,
So that brings us to the review and approve warning for Bethany Birches. And I'm going to read the warning. Legal voters of the Town of Plymouth, County of Windsor, State of Vermont are hereby notified and warned that a petition has been filed by at least 5% of the registered votes of the Town of Plymouth, County of Windsor, State of Vermont to reconsider Article 6 from the annual town meeting held on March 4th, 2024. That was done by a show of hands vote at the meeting. As a result, the town will hold a special meeting at the Plymouth Municipal Building at 68 Town Office Road, Vermont, on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. to revote Article 6. The meeting shall be conducted by the moderator consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. The vote for reconsideration shall be controlled by a simple majority vote of the registered voters present at the meeting. Article 6 stated the following: to see if the legal voters of the Town of Plymouth will vote to exempt the property owned by Bethany Birches Camp Incorporated located at 2610 Lions Hill Road, parcel ID 000167, from the educational portion of the property taxes for a period of 5 years, commencing with the 2024 tax year. Any discussion?
That.
Bruce?
I
Then
have a
Bob.
question. Is that going to be a vote by hands or by voice that evening? Is that
Yes.
just like we did the last time?
Yep, unless,
Repeat, basically a repeat.
Yeah, and but I do think somebody can call for a paper vote if they want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob was next, and then Karen?
Yeah. This kind of disturbs me here in the town. Because I've seen a couple other issues in the past that went on like this, caused a lot of bullshit between people. Did we or did we not, and this will take a few minutes, did we or did we not vote to make them exempt on this issue?
Yes.
And we're having another vote in May?
But
Okay,
petition, yep.
all right.
We're legally bound.
We voted for 5 years. To me, this shouldn't come up for vote again for another 5 years. Because if anybody wanted to be there and speak on anything, they should have been there the night of the town meeting. I don't give a shit if the kid had a birthday party or what they were having. People, when the issues come up, they should be here to vote the way, not in a couple of months, to get the select board or the whoever board to say, well, we're gonna vote it again. We voted, as the town people, is what we wanted in our government. This is what we wanted, the residents of Plymouth. We wanted a 5-year vote on it, that's what we got. That should be the end of the story. Let them piss and moan till the 5 years is up and go through it again. I'm dead against voting on this bullshit until the next 5 years. And if people knew and understood what that can't, because I was against it. I was against it. I told everybody in town, I said, I ain't voting for that son of a bitch. That ain't happening. No, really.
Yep.
And it was, and I discussed with Brandon before we went to the meeting and this and that. And then at the meeting, there were people that stood up in defense of the camp. And I know, I live across the street from them, I know the good work that they do. And I said, what the hell am I bitching about? And this only comes to about $80 a year more for me anyway. I give them a $200 donation to start with, so what's another 80? So, I don't know, before I get wound up, I just, those are my feelings.
Thank you,
Bob,
No, but I think people should understand what that camp does for kids. When they said to me, because I give a donation, they said, well, what kid would you like to sponsor? No, I'm not doing that so I can say, oh, I sponsor. No, I give the donation, you put it towards whatever you want, I gave it to you. And people should look and see what that camp does and what they teach these kids, and it's amazing.
Bob, you know, this isn't a select board decision that initiated this revote. It was by statute. There's a petition with the signatures on it with 5% of the town voters that ask for a revote. And when they submit a petition to this board, we have to honor that petition and revote by statute, by law. We don't have any choice.
Yeah, but you voted on it for 5 years.
Yeah, we did. We
So
did.
you can't bring it to, I'm saying, I don't know.
I know.
I'm just saying.
But the law says we have to revote if we get a petition handed to us with 5% of
A valid
voters. And we
petition.
have a petition with 10% of the registered voters.
Well, I don't think that's right.
Well,
When I
that's-
say I don't think it's right, I don't think you people are reading it right. Because if you voted, because you'd have to vote every, people would have every other week putting in a petition to revote it. Because in 6 months from now, I can start a petition to revote it.
You
So
can
you
do it.
would be
No, we
voting
only
it.
have,
You
we
could.
I'll read it to you, because we only have, you have, after the vote, someone has 30 days to appeal it. So it's chapter 55, local election, 17 VSA 2661B, reconsideration or rescission of a vote petition has to be filed within 30 days. And 5%, no less than 5% of registered voters, I'm assuming, Angela, you checked to make sure they were all, and no more than 20% of registered voters. So so they can only have that many voters. And then we have to bring it up for a revote within a certain amount, between 20, warn the meeting, not less than 30 days, no more than 40 days. So between 30 and 40 days, we have to warn the meeting. Then we have the meeting, it has to be held in the same manner, which was town meeting. So we have to have a town meeting. Again, hopefully people will turn out. We've had that discussion too. If someone wants to do paper ballot, they can ask and make a motion to do paper ballot. That is the first person who will bring it, and then it has to be seconded by 6 other people. So 7, one person standing up, and 6 other people have to agree, and we can do paper ballot.
I didn't know that, Karen. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's,
I didn't know that it required 6 more people.
Bob, your point is absolutely valid, and I agree,
yeah,
I agree with
yeah,
your
I agree too.
premise in
Nothing
that,
we can do.
you know, town meeting's supposed to be where people come to town, vote, and be
Right.
done with it. At this
Have to
point,
be
Craig
clear.
actually has raised a similar point at a different
Yeah.
discussion that we had, that whereby it seems to be, you know, I'll use your language, bullshit, that you can have a vote, and then people can challenge that vote. I don't agree fundamentally that that's the way it should be done, but Vermont statute allows for
Okay,
that.
So let me ask this now.
That's the law.
We'll just say Article 1, I don't know. Just say Article 1 now, I don't like it at the meeting. So after a town meeting, I go around with this petition, and you can, and you'll have to revote that again?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
Article 1,
yes.
you'll have to call a special
Yep.
meeting?
Yep,
And how many times can you do that?
that's it.
That's it, once,
Once.
once.
But how does a hand vote after the fact trump a hand vote at town meeting? How can you have a hand vote? I can understand if you sent out a paper ballot in the mail.
You can't send out, you cannot
Okay.
do Australian ballot.
Okay.
Australian ballot is when you send them out, that's different. This
Okay.
can only be done in the same manner.
Okay, well,
That
it's,
was done,
if
so
we
you
didn't
cannot
like
do
the outcome,
Australian.
so we're gonna hold the exact same, everybody, the exact same people come in, what Bob's saying, everybody comes in, everybody votes the same way. What have we done?
Maybe not, you might get more, you might
We
get
might
less,
get more,
you might get less.
But
We've had that
to
happen.
have the same form doesn't,
That is,
doesn't make sense.
that is the,
State
that is the
law.
legal requirement.
It's state, we have no, that's the law.
So we
That's-
screwed up the first time?
It's not up
No,
to,
this is not the first time this has happened where someone has come for a revote, but that is the statute, those are the laws we must abide
I
by.
understand it's the law.
I think functionally what happens is that whoever puts a petition together has the opportunity to develop a faction to come to the
Right.
meeting and vote the way the petitioner wants. That's what these things will usually lead to. So it is like redoing the vote, and it becomes, in this case, kind of a stack vote, unless there's enough energy on the part of those who don't want to see it to also show up at that meeting. But you can be pretty sure most of the people who signed the petition are likely to come to vote. Those who didn't, they
It's
stay
always
home.
happened that way.
I don't-
Shows.
I don't know,
That's just-
we didn't have too many people at the short-term rental ordinance meeting.
Well, it was less than
Like
50.
like 50 to
It was less than
Yes, it
50.
was.
Less than 50.
I mean, I'm in agreement.
47.
I'm in agreement with those two that procedurally, I think it's flawed, but I understand
We can't.
that legally, it is what we're called to do.
Well, I think the nature and intent of this petition was that those that were behind, you know, signed, whatever, felt that the issue at hand would have been better served if in a wider vote, meaning it felt that town meeting wasn't, and didn't encapsulate enough voices, so they wanted this vote to have a wider vote because of the repercussions of the vote, i.e. giving somebody a big tax break. So, Bob, you're absolutely right. If you want to get in on the issue, you got to get your ass to town meeting, and unfortunately, people just don't do it.
We have to, we don't.
Well, then they should live with the vote that we had. Now, did anybody here check with the town lawyer to see how legal this is?
It's
Yes.
legal, it's statute, I just read it to you. This is the law, I looked them up. This is.
Yeah, you looked them up, but.
No, it's,
Karen,
I know, it's,
Voters have say.
we have, every election has rules, and we are part of the election committee, your select board, myself, Angela, and several others, and we have, the JPs, we have to abide by the law.
Right, but I
That's why
would
you
just,
come
in
in,
doing
we
something
could
like
have,
that.
you know, we could have our voter registration list all set and ready, we could have paper ballots made up before, and if we need them, we need them, we don't, we don't.
Bob, this,
Like I say,
this came from the town lawyer. We asked and
Yeah.
confirmed.
oh, this come from the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
Because
was
he read the
from lawyer.
statutes, we didn't.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the bill.
And nothing to do.
Said, wait till you see the bill.
Lawyer.
Yeah.
We'll take
These
it
are all
out the truck.
statutes. You can
There
look
you
them up.
Don't be touching that truck fund.
I do have two. So in next year's town meeting, is there any way we can cut to the chase so that we can put the information out there what is being voted on at town meeting, that's basically the crust.
Well, that's what you do, you post it, you're
Well,
warning.
you warn it and say, all right, there's gonna
It's
be
in your
voted
town
on.
book.
It's in a
your town
warning.
I
booklet.
understand it, but I'm saying a more descriptive.
So what we think, I think we've discussed this potentially next year, is have an informational meeting, send out paper ballots to everybody in town. That might be the format. I don't know. That's up for discussion,
You
but
can't send paper ballots out.
we can't have stuff on a ballot.
Australian ballot
Yeah.
and paper ballot are different. Paper ballot's called for at a meeting.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Australia,
Australia-
yes, thank you.
okay.
Yep.
But you have to vote whether you want, like we
Yes.
had this discussion. Town meeting's here to voice your opinion, where you can change something and raise your rates, where you can make changes. We don't have that option at the school anymore. We used to be able to amend our school budget. We can't do that. We don't have a budget. The town meeting is the only time you can change things and voice your opinion and do that. You will give up that.
Yep.
I mean, people keep bringing it up to a vote, get it. Or do you want everything voted on Tuesday on Australian ballot? It's.
We've put certain things to a town-wide vote,
Right.
like the STR
And for
and the
discussion,
marijuana
to have it.
discussion. The
You
decision
cannot
was
change and amend.
mailed out.
You know, you've
Yeah.
tried to do, 3 times the budget was tried to be amended the other day at town meeting. But we're only getting 50, 60, 50 people. That's their choice, I guess. That's how I look at it. I don't know. I don't want to give up that. I guess I flex because I really don't think I want to give up that right to be able to
Yep.
discuss and amend things at a meeting.
But you also have to look at.
Oh, excuse
how many
me.
people showed up to-
Bob had his hand up and Bruce had his hand up. And then Rick, please. So Bob?
Okay, which you came up with, sending, what you worded a little different, when you said sending out a letter. Can we send a letter out, say 3 weeks ahead of time? If you send it out 2 in advance, they throw it away, you send it not close enough. But in the town, send a flyer out to the legal voters in Plymouth, saying that we're gonna have a revote on this with the time and the date and the reason.
So we do that via warning now.
Right, it's a warning, that's
It's
all.
a warning. We put it in the paper, we post it in conspicuous places.
Yes, I understand
Yeah.
it, but a lot of people don't read the warnings in town. I've never read one once.
Well,
I mean, no, I mean, you know, I know you posted them here and in different places, but it's something I don't do.
Is this not a flyer?
what? On the town book?
Yeah, but
because
that
it's town
doesn't
book.
say about the revote.
No, because that just happened.
next.
But are you gonna
No,
send to the legal voters?
No.
That's what I'm asking for, can you send?
I don't know if we legally can.
You cannot. You have to warn the meeting, it's voted on at a meeting. It's voted in the same manner it was voted on before. So we have to have another meeting, another town meeting, just people come. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, the statute
We
limits you
don't
to
make the
doing
rules.
exactly
We
the
have
same
to
thing
abide
over.
by them.
All you can do is repeat it. We can't,
Right.
like, have another special vote or anything. It has to just be a repeat of the.
Right, so
So I'm
repeat.
lost, Karen, I'm lost. You're saying it's too late to send out a letter, you're
You
saying?
can't legally. We already had a town meeting, so now we're basically having another town meeting, which they call a special meeting, to do a revote on something that was requested to be revoted on. It has to be done in the same format that it was done
In
before.
other words, you can't advertise, I'm using the word advertise, I don't know.
You
You
can let
can't
people-
advertise what you want?
The town can't.
Excuse me. Hey, can we have Bruce and then Jude?
Am I ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, excuse me.
I think a lot of this could be avoided if you didn't call for a vote too quickly. When somebody comes with an issue before the board or at the town meeting that is out of the ordinary, I don't know how to define it. I know it when I see it, but I don't know how you go about defining it. But there's been other issues that get voted on quickly, and it ends up rubbing people the wrong way. Not everybody, but, you know, Brandon has a strong case, but there's other people who don't like the idea. And rather than voting that night when, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but supposing somebody wanted to get something voted on, and they brought a lot of friends with them. Other people are just innocent bystanders. You know, they come to the meeting, some people don't come to the meeting because they don't know about it. Like Bob said, you know, they're not getting a flyer in the mail. They have to read the paper, or I don't know where else you find out about these things. But have the meeting, talk about it, and then say, all right, we're going to have a special vote on this because it is a little out of the ordinary.
I don't know if we can do that at town meeting.
You can't.
I don't think you can do it.
You have to vote at the town meeting.
Every article, unless you
Right.
have an informational meeting, send out paper ballot, or,
It could be on the
Australian
ballot the
ballot.
next day.
yeah. Which are made out of
Town
paper,
would
by
have-
the way.
The town would have to vote on if you want things voted on by Australian ballot. You can't just say, I want Australian ballot, or I want paper ballot. You've got to have someone request that out of me. Australian ballot's a total different thing.
Yeah.
Australian ballot means every voter would get a ballot to vote on. So if you wanted to change that, you've got to bring a petition up and have a vote on it. So it's just like this, you can't just change things. It's not the way it's done. If you want
Rick-
Australian ballot, like I said, but Australian ballot's gonna
Why not
give up
just-
your chances to sit here right now and voice your opinion and try to change things.
Rick, you had your hand up?
Well, you look at 47 people came Monday night. A lot of the people weren't aware of several articles because they don't read things, which, for good or for bad, that's what the reality of the situation is. But, and how many people showed up Tuesday to cast ballots? 200 and something?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's your argument to do this over, because when people know about something, they know this is the date to vote. And it kind of, we talked about this too, and we'd have to vote on it. You have an informational meeting, which almost every other town does, the night before the election day, and you vote. Everything is done by Australian ballot or paper ballot.
Australian ballot is made out of paper.
Well, you do it in person. Whatever you have to do to come in and do it in person, whatever that's called.
That's
There.
Australian ballot.
Okay.
But
Everywhere
you-
else in the country, it's called a paper ballot. So, I know in the
Well-
city of Boston,
Well, that's
We
the
have a
city. We're in a
fresh-
little town here. We're in Vermont. We're like,
I know,
this is
but
what
I-
we have. That's why you're here.
little other towns.
You have a
they do
little
this.
say, a
They-
little more say.
They do little things. They have a night before where everybody gets up, expresses opinions. I'm saying yes, I'm saying no. Stand up, do their thing, and then the next day they come and put it to a paper ballot. That's typically how it's done, but I know this is how we'd have to change things here. But ideally, because there's a lot of people who don't like raising their hands, because they're afraid.
That's why you ask for paper ballot,
That's
because a
right.
lot of people do
Well,
not want to vote,
Down.
do not want to
Well,
raise their hands. So
Right.
that's why a lot of times
And-
paper ballots, that's why I ask for them.
Any particular issue can be relegated to the Australian ballot on voting day, whereby it would just be a topic of discussion at town meeting. The moderator would announce Article X. Is there any discussion? You know, should we put hot air balloons out on the front lawn? Is there any
Right,
discussion?
yeah.
No.
Well, that's all.
And then the votes tomorrow. So that wasn't done in the case of this particular issue. It was just presented as a issue to be voted on the floor at town
Oh,
meeting.
that's all like we're putting together.
So,
But at town meeting, there were two individuals that gave opposing sides, okay? So there was a discussion, there
Right,
was,
that's why there is a discussion.
right, and it was voted at town meeting as opposed to Australian
Been like
ballot
that
the next
forever.
day on voting day.
Yeah.
And Bob's got his hand up, sorry,
But it
Bob.
could be.
Okay, I don't know if I heard Rick right or not. Did you say, Rick, that some of the people at the meeting did not know what we were gonna vote on?
I don't think the greater public was aware of what was going to be
Okay,
presented.
okay, I'm gonna cut to the core here. If you're a registered voter, you send out a town book, aren't you? You open the town book, and what does it say in the town book?
Tells you what we're gonna vote on.
It tells you what you're gonna vote on.
I'm not disagreeing with that, Bob, but the fact is, there's a lot of people,
Well, then, that's your problem. You can't say a lot of people, there's a lot of people. That's all bullshit. You gotta be responsible for yourself. That's why the country's in the shape it's in. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their own action. Their own action is, if you wanna know what's going on, you open a book, you look it over, you come to the meeting and you vote your conscience. If your conscience says you want something, raise your hand. Be a person. Okay, I've said enough on that, let's go to the next subject. And seriously, again, I know, I like to put humor in everything, and because it lightens it up. But we gotta start to be responsible, we can't make excuses. We have an issue here, let's cut to the core and deal with it.
So it's Tuesday, May 21st, 7 o'clock?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I got a couple questions, guys.
Yeah.
Wasn't it 30 to 40?
Stand, please.
Yes, Mr. Pop. 30 to 40 days we have to warn it,
Let's see.
right?
War meeting, not less than 30 days,
Yeah.
no more than 40.
I'm pretty sure today's 42.
From the date of receipt of the petition, not.
Right, from the date of the receipt of the petition. The
Yeah.
petition was already handed in. And Angela confirmed all the voters.
Got it.
And there wasn't
And how-
more than 20% voters, only 25, I think, right, 26 voters or something.
Not 10%,
Yeah.
How much are you allowed to rewrite the petition?
Not much. It's,
We couldn't modify the language, I was under the
You
impression
gotta
at all.
warn it the same way it was warned at town meeting,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly
Oh,
the
I mean,
same.
Rick's petition, it reads, Brendan is not my petition. It's the town's petition. If you're gonna throw out slanderous remarks, be prepared for the blowback. It was not my petition. You approached me in my store about this. Now, I'll stop you right there, cut it short. That is a warning,
Cut that bullshit out, warning shit.
all right? It's not my petition.
I have.
But don't do any warning around here.
In order to avoid this in the future, we need to be clear about the process so that it doesn't happen again. And I'm getting the impression we can't make that decision on town meeting night to put it on the ballot the next day because the ballots are printed.
It has to be brought up.
So we have to bring a petition to the town before the next annual meeting to do this.
it's how we all want to
To
vote.
do it at that annual meeting. It's going to be the
Right.
following meeting if we're successful.
Right. So,
Right?
so people have to decide how they want to vote, right? Whether it's in person here or by Australian ballot.
Right.
If someone's to bring a petition up on that.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Or we
So
can decide as well.
need to figure out how to do that.
I don't know
so
if we
that
can.
bring
I don't
this
know,
to
I don't know if you
the
can.
And not have this happen.
Well,
every
we've done
year.
it before,
Well,
like with the marijuana thing.
Well,
That was a special, a vote.
COVID, right? The rules changed with COVID.
Yeah, the rules were different for during COVID. Everybody was mailed out things during COVID.
yeah,
That
that's
was a
right.
state decision.
And I think it was extended, and I'm not sure what the expiration.
You know, mail, every time we hold a special meeting and every time it's an expense. And if you decide to mail Australian ballot out to 300 and some voters or 430 voters and you only get half of them come, I mean, it's an expense. And I think we do well with our, election procedures and we've got everything up to date and we're right on where we're supposed to be.
How we put it in the book, how the town put it and did it as an article, is how other towns do it.
Right.
Plymouth did not do anything different than other towns do when companies or businesses want a 5-year waiver on property taxes. We didn't just make something up and do it a
Right.
certain way. That's how towns put it as articles, and people vote on it. They have their informational meeting one night and discuss it, and it's an article.
Right.
And that's how it's
That's how
done.
it's done.
So I have a question, with the whole package we're looking at here with town meeting, that's my concern is what weight that carries in our vote and the end result. Let's say we want a line item, which a couple of things were line items in the budget. I'm gonna say, all right, $140,000, we'll use that number for the town budget for equipment, whatever. And I say, no, we should strike that out. And everybody says, yeah, let's strike it out. I mean, should we be able to line item things?
I think we can amend it, right?
Right,
We can amend the budget at town meeting.
That's what you can do when you have an open meeting and you can stand up, like when we
Yeah.
raised the select board.
You can amend anything at
That's
town
the beauty
meeting.
of doing that.
Right, so,
On the floor.
exactly, so if we can line item
Which is
that.
the benefit of town meeting.
That's the benefit of town
Exactly.
meeting.
So
Yeah.
I see the same benefit in a raise of hands, whether for or against something, in a procedural way. I think it's important that that vote carries. I know there's, state laws for the voting of it, but I think people have to take a little bit more seriousness. If they want something changed at town meeting,
Have to come to a meeting.
do your footwork before, get your constituents to stand up for you, and at town meeting, they raise your hand.
Right, that's how it's always.
I agree with you.
I
And
just
it's a
think,
fundamental
we
problem.
did this with the
People don't want to get motivated and go to
Well,
town
that's,
meeting.
that's how it's always been.
You got
Like
Zoom,
said,
you got
things
everything,
change.
I want to go do whatever, I don't want to
You
go.
can't have people on Zoom vote, so they have to be here to vote, and it's like I said, I think the information's provided out there, people, I don't know what you can do to draw, maybe have the Girl Scouts have another bake sale or something like we used to. We don't do that anymore, maybe that was a draw, I don't know.
We've had a
Plus, we used to have school information.
question on Zoom, somebody's been waiting a long time.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Patrick, can you make that happen?
They're right there.
Oh, okay.
They've had a question, they posted it in the chat.
And then we'll get Brandon.
I can't read that.
Can you read that? I can't read that far.
Well, it's
What
Joyce, maybe she could
documents?
just rephrase it.
We can't
You
see.
could just ask her.
What determines whether an amendment is voted on a ballot versus voted in a town meeting?
Someone
You,
brings it.
you can't amend a ballot.
You can't amend.
No, the question is, how is the decision made between what is done voice vote and what is done Australian? If I understand it correctly, there's certain things that by statute have to be Australian, isn't that correct? And then everything else is by voice vote at the town meeting?
Like the elections, right, are Australian ballot.
Yeah.
And
Recording in progress.
And aren't certain financial issues, or is that optional? Because I think we voted, well, I guess I'm thinking.
We vote on the town
the
budget.
education
Financial.
budget
Mhm.
is on the Australian.
yeah,
The town budget was voted by hand.
It's voted by.
I'm talking education part, don't we vote that?
We
that,
have nothing to do with that anymore, it's all the
No, That's
state.
what I'm
Yep.
saying, that's part of the Australian, there's certain things by statute that have to be done Australian, and everything else
We,
is done by town voice vote at the town
we
meeting.
used to vote, we used to have half the town meeting would be school,
Yeah,
the other half town, and we'd flip it, we'd reverse, but we don't have any control
That's-
over our
that's-
budget
you're
anymore.
not listening to what I'm saying, Kevin, I'm not disagreeing with you. The question was, how is a decision made on what is voice vote and what is paper vote? And I'm saying that my understanding is that the statute determines what things must be done by paper vote, and everything else is done by voice vote at the town meeting. That's the distinction that answers a question, I believe.
and you can change that to
And
voting by Australia, if you
we can
decide.
change that if we as a town change
Correct.
that, which would
Right.
then be a decision made at a town meeting for future.
Or you could have a special town meeting ahead of that
As
town
long as
meeting.
it's town meeting. And the issue to me becomes the same issue again, is it doesn't matter whether we have a special town meeting, an informational meeting before the town meeting, or move everything to Australian ballots. Some significant portion of modern residents are simply not going to take the time to participate in that. We have had special meetings before, and I've been here with 15 people. This happens over and over again. We are out of the habit as Americans of having democratic authority over our local affairs, and nobody takes it seriously anymore. It's an education issue, not a procedural issue, I think.
Well, those of us that are here take it seriously.
Exactly, but look
I
at the
know.
room.
Ten people.
Yeah, Bob.
Okay, again, this is a personal thing. I'd like to know if everybody here at this meeting is the legal voter of the town. Everybody is.
Right,
No.
it's not.
Well,
I'm not. I can't
is
vote.
that the right, here at a meeting like this, that they have the right to speak? I know they don't at town meeting, which was done at town meeting.
I-
Because again, this is what I'm going back to. If you're gonna participate, you gotta be a player. And if you're not a legal voter, you shouldn't have anything to say here in this town.
I think that if you're a landowner.
It doesn't make a difference as long as,
Well, that's your opinion.
yeah.
But as far as the way the law is, if you own property, you're allowed to speak.
Yeah. just can't vote.
but you cannot vote. Now, that's the way it is. You may not like that, you know, I may not like that, but that's the way it is. You
At town
can't change
meeting,
it.
you have to ask permission if
Yeah.
you're not.
Right. But to me, you should be on the team if you want anything to say, and not from the outside.
I sit on the planning and zoning committee.
Yeah.
I own one
and-
of the biggest small businesses in the town. I
Yeah,
think I
but see,
participate more than
with me, that
anybody
doesn't
else.
cut any ice.
Well,
You should be
the law
part
says
of-
on the.
Why don't you, if you guys can address us rather than going.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. And Brandon?
I just want to extend an apology to Rick. Rick, I appreciate you as a neighbor. I do not want to slander you, and I'll find a new name to call the petitioner. I promise you. I'll just refer to it as whatever the article or name it is. So I hope you can accept that, Rick. A second issue, is it possible at all to move the date 1 or 2 days further into the future? Does it have to be that Tuesday?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Isn't it typically, and I don't know the answer,
What's the date?
There's a few days that we have to
Is that the
get it within.
it's a warning, isn't it?
It's because we're stuck, because we have to have it no less than 5 days in the paper, which would be
Yeah.
Thursday. That's why it's the previous Thursday, that's why it's the 21st.
Right.
The 21st is day 58, and it has to be done within day 60.
Right. We have to.
We're like,
Cutting out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
You've got a
Is
follow-up
it
question
have to
on
be a
that.
No, but that's the day that falls in the parameters.
Does-
I can read it if you want me to read it.
Town
to you.
votes are always Tuesdays, right? Is that wrong?
No, it is just.
Just tell me when.
Tuesday,
Okay.
the meeting's
Let's
not
see.
Wednesday.
Any day we could have like,
I mean, I don't.
so town meeting dates.
We got a question on the Zoom?
Town meeting makes a.
It's from Joyce Cooper again. I still don't understand why the educational tax waiver is voted on in town meeting, but other budget decisions aren't. They both impact our property tax. Can something be put in writing that explains this?
That's not true. All of our budget issues are voted at town meeting.
Our budget, not the school budget.
Right.
School budget. we have
Right, but
nothing
the
to do
school
with
budget is the union that we're a part of, and it's extraneous to the town budget, so it's an Australian ballot issue.
that. We don't set the date for that, they've changed that.
The union sets the date.
Yeah, we have nothing to do with that school anymore, as far as.
Who says that?
Yeah. Sorry, Mike's got his hand up?
Mountain View
School
School Union.
The school year.
We're a party to that union.
The townspeople have access to the budget. Come to a budget hearing
Yeah,
and put
Right.
your input in.
Don't we have
We
to-
have access. There are several hearings that you have
come to a
that
select
are
board
open to
meeting,
everybody.
Yeah, come to select board meeting.
or coming to select board meetings.
Well,
Twice
there's
a
still
month.
this
It's
kernel
a lot
of
of fun.
confusion regarding what gets put on the ballot versus what gets put into town meeting. And you say our COVID era powers to circumvent group meetings allowed us to place things on the Australian side, and now that that's expired, we can't do that?
I don't know if it's expired, and I don't know, you know, Angela, like, if that,
It did expire.
It did?
There was a date.
because they extended it a couple times.
Well, it must be expired by now, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is or not.
I want to say it is, that they changed all the rules, blah, 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 blah. So I don't even know if we have to have, I don't even know if you're required to have Zoom meetings anymore. That was one of the things I read. I don't think it's a requirement.
I think you're right, Karen. I don't think it's
It's
required.
not required for towns to have Zoom meetings anymore.
It was a COVID issue.
Yeah, a lot of that was COVID. That's why then I think, wasn't the last presidential election during COVID, right? Yeah, because we had people come in. We had people come from, well, girl came in from China. Moved back because.
So, did you get an answer to your question
I missed that. Can you, what was this summary?
about the date?
So we are limited, we have a very narrow window because, so we have to post at least 5 days prior, okay, to the meeting. So our paper that we posted is the Journal, which comes out on Thursday the 16th. So 5 days after that just takes us to the Tuesday, the 21st. That's day 58 to stay within that 60-day window. So I don't know what you're thinking of.
If you could make it Wednesday, that would make me happier, Thursday even happier.
Can't, yeah.
Okay.
Close. I mean, I can't make that decision.
We're bound. We've been through this a couple times before, like you have that window of time and then you're done. Okay, so I'm gonna sign this warning. We don't need a motion, we just need to sign.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Bob?
Are we done with this, excuse me, are we done with this discussion on this now?
I think
Is that the end of the discussion?
Is the end of the discussion on that one? Yep.
On that Monday night.
So we're all done
I think
with
we're-
what we're talking about?
I think
I think
so,
so.
unless somebody has other
Yeah,
comments, I
okay,
think
well,
so.
with that, then I gotta go.
Okay,
I don't wanna get involved in too much at once.
Well, we're talking about when we're gonna have our planning and zoning meeting for to pass the zoning and order, right, on the,
Yeah.
can we do that at the same time, Angela? The same night?
Bob, thanks for coming, Bob.
It'd be nice to do it at the same special meeting.
Yeah.
The zoning changes can be voted on by the select board, and then they take effect in 15 days, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, so we're gonna throw zoning out?
Oh, no.
I gotta go. I gotta go, folks.
See you, Bob.
See you, Bob. Meeting opponent.
So we have two votes the same night or just one?
No, they're planning for them for two.
Do that the same night?
But that's what we talked about last minute, that's up to you guys. I'm just thinking of,
Simple.
But we'll separate, it's gonna be.
That's May.
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, definitely should do that. Well, I know that's been expressed interest.
Yes. So that's it, other than warrants and mail. And we have an executive session to discuss the personnel policy. Thanks for coming.